Computer. Hey everybody, welcome back to the 1455 interview. I'm Sean Murphy, the Executive Director. We continue to have a blast talking to writers. There's obviously some overlap, some similarities, but we're also seeing a lot of different types of responses to these questions. So I think the takeaway is, writers have a lot in common, but they're also very unique animals. Today, it's with great pleasure that I welcome back our friend Cliff Garstang, who was in our Lit Fest this summer, and you can check out, we recorded the entire thing, so you can check him out in action, writing about the Shenandoah Valley, writing in the Valley, and he was part of our author series in 2019. So we've already connected with Cliff, and I'm sure we'll connect with him again. Let me introduce him, and then we'll bring him on for the interview. Clifford Garstang is the author of House of the Ancients and Other Stories. He's also the author of the novel, The Shaman of Turtle Valley, a novel and stories, What the ZHANG Boys Know, which won the Library of Virginia Award for Fiction, and a prize-winning short story collection, In an Uncharted Country. He's the editor of the 3-volume anthology series, Everywhere Stories, Short Fiction from a Small Planet, a great title, stories set around the world, and the co-founder and former editor of Prime Number magazine. He's a former international lawyer and now lives in the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia. And I'll just add as a personal addition, incredibly productive and inspiring. It seems like there's always something going on with Cliff, so I consider him a force for good in the literary world and a personal influence that reminds me to get the work done. Cliff, welcome, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks very much, Sean. It's great to be here, and I love this series that you've created, as well as all the other wonderful things that you're doing at 1455. So thank you for being such a force in the literary community as well.
Well, it's definitely my pleasure. And frankly, I say this a lot, but it's in many regards a selfish endeavor because I get to meet and hang out with people I admire. So thank you for that. Okay, so as always, folks, 14 minutes and 55 seconds. Let's start the timer and get rolling. Cliff, what's the first book that made you want to be a writer or a book that changed your life?
So this is a really hard question, as I think all of your guests have said. But I look back to some non-assigned reading that I did in high school as being really the seed for my ambition. And specifically, I was reading Hermann Hesse, and the first book of his that I read was Siddhartha, which didn't necessarily make me want to be a writer, but it is what turned me on to things Asian and Buddhist culture in general, and that turned out to be very influential in my life. And probably the next book I read is what really blew me away, which was Demian, a short novel, very intensely philosophical and psychological. He was under the influence of Jungian psychology at the time that he wrote that, and so he brought me under that spell as well. And so that created my interest in philosophy, which actually changed the direction that I was going to take in college. I majored in philosophy instead of English, like one might do if you're preparing yourself to be a writer. But I wanted to be Hermann Hesse, not just a writer. So,
well, so maybe this is the same answer then. Who's your most profound artistic influence, or one of them anyway?
So that's impossible. Also, I've had the great good fortune of studying with a lot of really wonderful writers, and so I consider all of them influences. So no single writer, but in my MFA program, I studied with Elizabeth Strout, and I learned so much from her. So I know that part of her lessons are in the work that I continue to do. I did a couple of workshops in Mexico, one with Russell Banks and one with Grace Paley, and these are both very different writers, obviously.
Yes.
And my work is nothing like Grace Paley's, but I do try to bring the same kind of honesty and excitement to the work that she has. my work is probably more like Russell Banks's subject matter than Grace Paley's. And then I also, at the Sewanee Writers Conference, studied with Tim O'Brien, whose work I love, whose attention to truth and sentences is worthy of anybody's admiration. So that's just a few.
Well, thank you, A, and B, that's the second time already that Tim has come up in this series, and I echo your appreciation of him wholeheartedly. Okay, how about an album or movie that you recommend without reservation?
Yeah, I can't do that either. So all of Simon and Garfunkel's work. So, you know, I'm old, and when I was in high school, I inherited music tastes from my sisters who were older than I was. And so I listened to a lot of folk music back then. And so I think the work of Simon and Garfunkel did a lot for me and to me. And I can't do movies because I don't watch movies, which is shameful, but I don't.
Well, there's no right or wrong answer, but Simon and Garfunkel is the right answer. Well done. How about the best first or last line in any book? Again, doesn't have to be the best, but one of your favorites.
Probably the only line that, I mean, there are a few that people make jokes about, right? Or refer to the beginning of Anna Karenina, or one of your guests cited Charles Dickens' Tale of Two Cities. And you know, those are great beginnings. But the only one that I say to myself repeatedly is, "A screaming came across the sky," which is the opening line to Gravity's Rainbow by Thomas Pynchon. And that just thrilled me even to say it just now. So
that's awesome.
You know, it gives you a trajectory for that book, not the whole book, but you're taking off.
Yep. Okay. How about an underrated author you'd like to mention?
I read a lot, and so I see a lot of work by people who don't get a lot of attention. And so I think of an underrated author as being maybe an author's author, someone that the general public doesn't read a lot of. And I have been exposed to the work of Christine Schutt through my attendance at the Sewanee Writers Conference. And she is an author's author, and she writes beautifully and quietly. So I think everybody should read more Christine Schutt.
Thank you. Excellent. Okay. Why have you not read Moby Dick? Or if you have, what's a classic that you've been meaning to get around to?
I love this question because I love Moby Dick.
I couldn't help myself.
I read it. I don't know if I read it in high school or college for the first time. And I probably hated it then just because it was so long and I had to read it. And then I was getting a master's in English, and I don't think I took a Melville class, but I think Moby Dick was on our reading list for the comprehensive exam. So I dived into it and found it hilarious. It's like the funniest book, and nobody knows that. You know, it's just funny as hell. So I love Moby Dick. So, but there are all these other classics that I have not read. One of your other guests mentioned War and Peace, and that's the one that comes to my mind because I feel like I should have read that. I have read other Tolstoy, but I have not read that one. But I want to mention one other because I just dug it out of my library, which is this book, Dream of the Red Chamber, which is a Chinese classic, which I've been meaning to read for a very long time. And I just came across a podcast that is discussing it. Wow. So I'm now reading after, I've owned this book for 35 years probably, and I haven't gotten around to it yet.
Well, that's the first time that one's been mentioned, so I'm grateful to you for exposing myself and many others to that. Another very difficult question to answer, but would you say that there's a single theme or topic that your work tries to address?
This is a really valuable question for somebody like me who's written a fair amount, but is looking forward to writing a lot more. I didn't realize until somebody pointed it out with my novel that came out last year, that I have written a lot about the theme of trying to fit in, outsiders looking for a community or a place to fit. And clearly, my first three books were that. The book that just came out, House of the Ancients, is not about that. It's about the consequences of men behaving badly, which is an interesting theme, but not one that I necessarily want to live with any longer. And so I have consciously been working away from those themes into a new direction. And I don't think I'll say what that direction is.
No, nor should you. Good. Keep us in suspense. All right, let's talk about writing routines. Do you believe in them? Do you have one?
I do believe in them. I'm very fortunate that because I don't have a real job, I can do what I want. But I think that the job of being a writer deserves discipline. And I can't say that I do a really good job of being disciplined because I'm easily distracted by social media and my emails and everything else that's going on. But I come to my desk early in the morning. I try to be here by 8 o'clock and work as long as I can on the writing part of it. And then the afternoons are for the other part of being a writer, book promotion and reading other people's books to do reviews and that sort of thing, and to do the occasional interview.
Okay. What about writer's block?
Yeah, I don't believe in writer's block. I do believe in writer's distraction, however, which probably amounts to the same thing. But yeah, I'm currently working on a project that I'm not blocked on it. I'm just confused by it. And so I'm not sure what to do with it, but I have 120,000 words on the page, so I can't be too blocked. Right? So people ask me about writer's block, and I say just write. I mean, in fact, write anything. Copy somebody else's work. Just get your fingers moving across the keyboard or with a pencil across the page and get the blood flowing. I actually start every morning by reading poetry, and somehow that unlocks my creative juices.
That's fantastic. I love it. Shifting gears a little bit, how about describing a significant setback, artistic or otherwise, that helped you on your trajectory?
Yeah, this is a little painful to talk about, but I think it's legit, so I will. The novel that came out last year, The Shaman of Turtle Valley, I actually finished. So last year was what, 2019? I actually finished it in 2011. And in the fall of that year, I had just finished it. I was very excited about it. And I queried agents. And miraculously, I had 4 agents who wanted to represent the book. So that was wonderful. And I interviewed them all on the phone, and I got to pick from the 4, and I picked one who I thought I was getting along with really well on the phone. And she was very busy, which is a good thing. So it took her a while to give me comments on the manuscript. And but eventually I got the comments, and I was so excited that I jumped in and I did a new draft of the novel that I thought was responsive to her comments, and sent it to her. And then time went by, like a month, and I got an email from her telling me I needed to find a new agent. Not a phone call, not anything nice, very little explanation. And I was devastated by that. so this is early 2012 or mid 2012 by that point, and the book went into a drawer. I was preoccupied with other projects anyway, but I didn't even look at that novel for another year. Now, not looking at a piece of work like that for a long time is not a bad thing. You know, it's okay to let something rest for a while, but I was not happy about that situation. So, but I dug it out of the drawer the following year and worked on it, got a new agent. It was eventually accepted for publication, came out. So happy ending.
Happy ending indeed. And perseverance is obviously a theme of all writers' lives, but comes up here repeatedly. So I think a good follow-up to that is, would you care to define or explain what literary success means to you?
I think that what really makes me happy, and so that must be success, is when people read my work. I'm just flabbergasted that anybody reads my work. And, you know, I like finishing things and I like having things published. And so that's a prerequisite to somebody else reading it. But when I hear that somebody bought the book and they read it, then that's a good thing. So that's success. I'd like to have more of those people, but you know,
Right.
it's good.
Good. Is there something you wish you'd known 10 or 20 years ago as a writer?
I guess I didn't really understand how long it takes to create something and to really build a career. You know, and so I started my MFA program 19 years ago. That's really when I quit my job, and it has taken a long time to get where I am, and I wish I'd really known that before.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you did a great job. We got through almost everything, but I always the executive director's prerogative. I always allow time for the final question, which is, do you have a 1-minute exhortation for any beginning writer looking for advice?
Well, I have a pretty standard answer to that question too, which is persevere. I mean, nothing's going to come quickly. Nothing comes easily. You're not going to finish your project instantly, and it's not going to get published instantly. Self-publishing is fine for some people at some point in their careers, but you don't have to do it the day after you type the end on your manuscript, which a lot of people do. So be patient, persevere, and write the best work you can do.
That's very sound and good advice, young writers. Cliff, thanks for joining me. You know, I'm positive that people checking into this are seeing the same things I admire, which is that you've got this quiet wisdom, obviously very dedicated. You love the act of writing, which to me, I think sounds trite, but in this world, we see so many people that are doing it for the wrong reasons and they seldom last. But for people that are deeply in love with the craft and the process, it's always inspiring. So I'm hoping that this conversation will inspire people checking this out to check out your work, go to the 1455 site, do some research and see Cliff in action at the Lit Fest, doing a reading from his novel last year, and check him out and make him part of your life and spread the word. Cliff, we'll see you again soon because you're part of the family, but all the best. And I'm always looking forward to what you come up with next. So let's let that happen soon.
Thanks a lot, Sean. Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure. Take care of yourself and we'll talk soon, my friend.
Okay. Take care.